You look so well. Look at you. Then he'll turn around to the fellow who says, you got a pimple? You're talking nonsense. Get out of the way.
Tunku is enraged. He expels both Mahathir and Musa from the party. But the attacks don't let up. And caught in the middle is Tun Razak.
He knew that Tun Abdul Razak was unpopular. At the same time, he knew that he was the deputy who had to tolerate the Prime Minister who was not popular, yet he would not want to push the then Prime Minister out in a forceful way, as we demanded.
Tun Razak acted forcefully against the rioters. But Tunku is an old friend and the man who led Malaya to independence. It is an agonizing dilemma, both personally and politically.
Razak would take hours even to explain to me why we had to be patient. We have to do it methodically, slowly. He's going, he said, don't worry. We must put everything in order. We must get things to be back to normal. Then he will go.
Tun Abdul Razak he is a man who thinks about policies and ideas about where to go, what to do, when to achieve independence, etc. But the actual groundwork is done by Tun Abdul Razak.
And Tunku, being a proud man, saw that he's welcome. He is no longer welcomed by the Malays and his party.
Tunku's support drains away. A year after the May riots, he agrees to step down. For Tun Razak, Tunku's decision opens the door to power. Tun Razak now succeeds Tunku as Prime Minister. It is an astonishing feat for the boy who went barefoot to school.
Hari ini adalah hari yang paling bersuah dan sejarah bagi diri saya. Inilah kali pertama saya berucap kepada saudara-saudara sekalian sebagai Perdana Menteri tetap menerima pelantikan oleh Yang Maha Hamba yang berkesan ada.
But his success is bittersweet. He will lead the nation, but without his old friend at his side. Inevitably, there is gossip that Tun Razak had engineered Tunku's fall.
Talks were abound suggesting that it was Tun Razak who conspired to oust Tunku. I think he felt disappointed with Tun Razak because he trusted Tun Razak fully as his deputy. I believe Tun Razak never wanted to do that to Tunku, directly or indirectly, because he loved Tunku like his own father.
Time would eventually mend this old friendship, but it would never be as warm as it once was in the long ago days of struggle. By 1971, Tun Razak's nation seems to be at peace. It is time to put Malaysia back on the road to democracy.
After a year, he gave it up because he said, we can't go on like this. We are not authoritarian thing. And we went back to democracy because the power to him, the source of power is from the people.
With democracy restored, it is a time for reconciliation. Razak welcomes back Mahathir and Musa Hitam into UMNO, reuniting the party. He goes even further. He invites opposition parties to join his broad coalition under the banner of the Barisan Nasional, the National Front. He launches a new war, the New Economic Policy, the NEP.
Pelancaran dasar ekonomi baru seperti kita maklum adalah tindakan tegas untuk menjaminkan masa hadapan.
It remains one of his most controversial legacies. His goal for the NEP is to cure the cause of dissent, the unequal distribution of wealth among Malaysians. It is seen as a radical solution.
We will try to restructure the society so that all the economic imbalances will be corrected in due course.
But there is a problem, and it would haunt Tun Razak's years in power. Tun Razak hopes the NEP will help the poor rise to the same level as the average citizen, thus reducing inequality. But since most of Malaysia's poorest people at this time are the Malays in the rural areas, to some critics, Tun Razak's NEP inevitably looks like it favors the Malays.
When it was launched, the non-Malays had some disquiet for fear that their economic position and interests will be jeopardized or adversely affected.
But Tun Razak insists that he wants equality, not racial preference.
Tun Razak did in fact announce that in the implementation of NEP, nobody should feel a sense of deprivation, a sense of loss of job opportunity. There would be no question, as Tun Razak said, the robbing of Peter to pay Paul.
Many of Tun Razak's supporters point out that the creation of the NEP was broadly agreed.
It was debated in the National Goodwill Council during the National Operations Council days after the May 13, 1969 incident, and it was debated seriously by all those who assembled in Parliament House, and they're drawn from all political parties, from all walks of life, and from all racial groups.
Regardless, some Malaysians begin to have doubts about him.
He told me basically that maybe some Chinese had misunderstood him, even to the extent that he was not only not friendly to the Chinese, but a little bit of anti-Chinese.
Despite the mixed response to the NEP, Razak's decisive action after the riots laid the foundation for Malaysia to move forward peacefully. By the beginning of the 1970s, Malaysians are working together towards building their nation. But many still fear the influence of the communists.
The Malayan communists were still very active here, and of course the Malays were not very happy with the communists, because some of them have suffered as a result of which has been illustrated. Thousands of Malaysians have been killed by the communists at that time.
Like his old friend Tun Abdul Razak, Tun Razak realizes that it is vital to snuff out that lurking threat. But he decides on a radical, but for him, characteristic new strategy. He will attempt to defuse the communist threat through negotiation. He decides to launch a policy of reconciliation with one of the world's most powerful communist regimes, China. He will boldly enter the dragon's den. But not everyone approved.
Some Malaysians did not support Tun Razak over the China policy because of their experience with the local communists.
Even his old friend, the revered former Prime Minister Tun Abdul Razak, is not supportive of his initiative. So for Tun Razak, the China policy will be a huge gamble.
Tun Razak believed that normalization of diplomatic ties with China could help to reduce the threat from the Malayan communists.
On May 28, 1974, Tun Razak and his entourage fly out of Malaysia, heading for Beijing. While they land in Beijing, nobody knows if this gamble will pay off. As he steps from his plane, he hopes that he is not making a terrible mistake. But it seems that the dragon is pleased to see him.
That was very extraordinary. The thousands of
students and thousands of people at the airport to welcome the delegation. We felt that the Chinese government was very friendly, the people was also very friendly.
In an astonishing display of warmth, the Chinese leaders lavished Tun Razak with a spectacular series of state banquets and meetings. Then comes the final test. The meeting with the great leader himself, Chairman Mao. And Tun Razak caps his spectacular success with the famous handshake that has been immortalized in Asian history. Back in Malaysia, Tun Razak has no idea what to expect. But he is amazed by the reception.
Sebaik-baik sahaja Perdana Menteri keluar dari kapal terbang, tepuk sorak bergema dari mereka yang menunggu.
The crowd awaited at the Padang Metakam and was enormous. I think that will come to 100,000 of people. Big crowd. Tun Razak was very happy that trip was successful, and in fact he announced there and then that the next day would be a public holiday.
I've never seen more Chinese at any government gathering than that. You see, that shows they appreciated what Tun Razak did.
Berjaya Malaysia! Berjaya! Berjaya!
As Tun Razak has hoped all along, success in China translates into reconciliation at home. The Prime Minister's Chinese success will soon be put to the test of public opinion. In 1974, he calls a general election, the first since May 1969. But will his diplomatic feat translate into votes? His China gamble pays off. Tun Razak's party, the Barisan National, sweeps the board.
Tun Razak managed to kill two birds with one stone. He reunited the Malays who were disenchanted with Tengku. He regained the confidence of Chinese who were a bit apprehensive about him.
For Tun Razak, the election is a resounding success. But as he basks in the glory, Tun Razak is uncertain if he'll have much time left to build on his achievement. For he is fighting a greater battle, one that he has been concealing for the longest time. But to a few very close friends, he discloses private fears and terrors.
Tun Abdul Razak suffered from dreams, and he liked to interpret his dreams. He dreamt mostly about unpleasant things happening.
What haunts his dreams is his own mortality.
He was worried that he could be killed. I don't think many people knew that Tun had this fear of being killed on duty, you know.
Tun Razak tells his confidants that he fears an assassin, but there is an internal enemy, an enemy that is showing signs of overcoming him.
He was not sleeping well, and he used to ring me up in the night to say that his gums were bleeding again.
Dr. Mahathir, one day called me from Anusa, said, Dola, do you notice I'm a doctor, I think something wrong with your boss.
Tun Razak has a dark secret, something that he has known since 1969. A secret that he has concealed from his closest friends and family. Tun Razak is dying. Tun Razak, the boy who went to school barefoot, has reached the height of power as the second Prime Minister of Malaysia. He is determined to lead his new nation, Malaysia, into a glittering future. But it is a future he will not see.
I suspect something